Hi, everybody. My name is Cindy Mattingly, and today we're going to be talking about sacred geometry. So I think I say this almost every time, but this is a big topic. So what I did is I will give you like a small definition of sacred geometry. We can chit chat about it. I've brought some of my own actual physical sacred geometry, physical objects. And I'm going to talk about why it's called sacred geometry, that kind of thing, just so you get that kind of a foundational baseline. But the key piece is I want to give you an experience of sacred geometry because in the Magic Mondays, we know, as far as my opinion, of course, everything's energy. So color has energy, sound has energy, your thoughts have energy, your emotions have energy. Well, today we're going to talk about sacred geometry, and the geometry, the shapes or the objects, they have an energy. And when we get towards the end, we'll sit back and I'll do a little guided meditation so that you can have a tool that you can use to explore this energy of sacred geometry. So I'm going to bring up so there's our little handout. And I'm just going to read that very first paragraph where it says, sacred geometry explores and explains foundational patterns that are core to everything in existence. These patterns appear in nature and repeat over and over. Sacred geometry helps us recognize them. Noticing that bees make their honeycombs in a hexagonal pattern and that the chambered nautilus grows in a spiral pattern acknowledges the wisdom of nature, that nature is listening to that energy. That's the piece. Sacred geometry gives us a way to contemplate and reflect on our search, and this is the key piece of all of it, balance and harmony. So this is a definition I searched for a very long time for myself to be able to say, oh, I understand sacred geometry. So this is the idea is that certain shapes and patterns that appear in nature, and that those repeating patterns are clues to the underlying nature and construction of the universe. Sounds like a really nice, fancy definition. So I have a tendency, though, to say, okay, well, let's look at geometry. Let's break this down. So geometry, we all know, is mathematics. Okay, so it's all about measurements and how they measure shapes and dimensions and things of that sort. So math. And then sacred, we all know, means that it has something to do with either spirit, or we could use the word God or divine, but there's some kind of underlying energy that repeats for us in a way that is special. So this word, sacred geometry, is a coined word. It was put together. So it's not technically a thing, but once it got coined, it became a thing, if you will. So that's what I think makes it sometimes a little complicated, because it is about math, but it's also about the beauty of spirit and energy. So what we're going to be looking at is the reason sacred geometry is what it is. So one of the examples here is about the Parthenon in Greece and then the pyramids in Egypt. What they found is using these principles that come under the sacred geometry, they found that both of these old ancient structures were based on these principles. So that way back when there was an awareness of the sacredness of this mathematics and creating these buildings in such a way. The bottom line is, in this, I should have made this in bold print, the energy of these shapes can be seen and felt. And so this is the reason why many of your spiritual or religious buildings are made a certain way, because they're taking the energy of the shape and magnifying what's going on within the walls of that facility. So they're doing both things. And we already know about that in the Magic Monday world, because we've talked about color, we've talked about sound, we've talked about holding space, we've talked about all these things because they're all based on energy. So one of the examples is the circle. So the circle is the symbol of unity. And as a teacher and a person who's taken many classes, I walk into a class that's organized like a classroom where the tables are one right after the other. It's a little uncomfortable, but if a teacher puts it in a circle, it's more inviting. And you notice that the words here are that it's about unity. So it's an inclusive symbol, and the energy of it, people feel it, even though they wouldn't know that that was the reason why. I just like it, would be but it speaks to a part of us that is not something that many people are aware of. The other thing that the circle symbolizes and reflects is this cyclical nature. So for instance, I was having a conversation with my parents, and they were complaining about our pandemic, right? Can you believe that we had this experience? And I said to my father, well, we had one 100 years ago. Maybe it was about time. And he started laughing because he said, you're right, because everything comes full circle. And I thought, well, isn't that an interesting realization? Because it does speak to that. So what I'm going to do here is just stop for a moment. And I brought some of so you have this is just a sphere. This is fluorite. And then they come in many different things. So you have a circle, which can be a one-dimensional, or you can have a three-dimensional, right? So this is considered one of your sacred geometries. Then there is the triangle, and this is a really important piece about that. So notice that it has a square bottom. So this is actually considered a pyramid, right? Versus a triangle shape. And that is different, right? That's the reason why the pyramids are so powerful, is because of their shape. And then this is a piece of onyx in a cube. And we all know how fabulous it is when you want to put something in an organized manner. If they're all this shape, it's a whole lot easier because they all seem to fit really well and they take up the right amount of space. But there's all kinds of mathematical formulas around that. And yes, I understand math and things of that sort, but I couldn't find a way to, at least for the Magic Monday hour that we have, to make it a functional kind of thing. So what I want to do, do you guys have any questions? All very simplified. Everybody's good? Okay. All right. So let me go back to this, to our little So again, I'm wanting to take it to a place where you can walk away from Magic Monday and go, huh, I learned one thing today. And this one thing is that one of the most common uses of sacred geometry is in meditation. So you can just imagine if you're looking at the circle idea or the sphere, if you're thinking of unity and you take that into your meditation, you can just imagine the energy that that might bring forth for you. Whether it is about say you're having a difficult situation and you're wanting to figure out how to balance it and bring it into harmony, a circle might be the place to bring this energy with you, and you have it, you can put it in your hands or you could sit it in front of you. But again, it's the same concept that we've talked about many times in Magic Monday, is that it's an energy, even though it has a form. We forget sometimes, right? So what I would like to do from here is to spend just give you a couple of minutes to have a meditative experience of several shapes. We're going to start with the sphere, and then we're going to do the cube. And then the last one is the picture of the one that's on the handout here. This is the Vesica Pisces, which is what? Two circles where they join. And it's, so we're going to use that one also. So you can draw a picture of it if you want. I can put it back up after we do the meditation. No, actually, I think what would be best for us is to spend a few minutes with each one of the shapes, and then you get a chance to compare how your experience is. So I'm going to. So what I would like you to do, and if you want, if you have a piece of paper, you can go circle, or you can think about a sphere. And then you can put a square, or you can think about a cube. And then the last one is the Vesica Pisces, the two circles overlapping. And I would like, so I'm going to invite everybody to just sit back, close your eyes. And I'm just going to, I want to be mindful of. So I'm inviting you to bring your attention inside and just settle in. Feel where your bottom meets your chair. Feel where your feet touch the floor. And then just breathing in and breathing out. You have nothing to do. And we're just wanting to have an experience with sacred geometry. So I'm asking you to invite in a circle or a sphere, whichever one feels right to you. Notice what it feels like. Do you see colors? Do you hear sounds? What is your experience of this shape. And bringing your attention back inside, thanking the circle or sphere, and then just taking a moment to reflect on your experience with this shape. We're not going to take the time now to write anything down. Just reflect. What was that like? What was the energy of that shape? And then letting that imagery go, bringing your attention back inside and settling back in. Awareness of your bottom, where it's hitting the chair, your feet on the floor. And setting that intention of having an experience of sacred geometry. And this time, we're going to invite in a square or a cube, whichever one feels right to you. And just noticing the senses and what is engaged with that. Do you see? Do you hear? Do you feel in your body? What is your experience with this shape? And when you're ready, you can thank the shape, the square or the cube. And take a moment to contemplate the experience. What was the energy of this shape? And then letting that imagery go, bringing your attention back inside, settling into your chair. And then visiting our last sacred geometry symbol, the Vesica Pisces. Wanting to have an experience of the energy of this sacred geometry symbol. So notice again what senses are engaged with this energy. How are they the different? How are they the same as the other symbols or shapes? And then thanking the Vesica Pisces for being with you today. And then just again, taking the moment to contemplate your experience of this energy. And then letting the imagery go and bringing your attention back to our time together today. If you want to take a few minutes, you can write down your experience. So I don't want to rush anybody, but would anybody like to share your experience?
I'll share.
Okay, thanks, Jane.
So it was interesting because I have never had this experience before, and going in the circle was very smooth, almost like the visual of like when like a cylinder spinning in water, like smooth, calm, easy. And then the square was so different. It felt, if I felt all my edges is the only way I can explain it. Like I felt like compacted, like pulled in, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Vesica Pisces, I felt pulled in, but like the way I would describe it is like a tug in my midsection of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so all very different and interesting. Thank
Right,
you.
because of the different energies, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to share?
When I first started, I wanted to visualize your fluorite thing, your fluorite sphere.
Uh-huh.
And a beach ball kept like pushing it out. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll deal with beach ball. And from there, I got kind of light, from a light weight, like kind of a floaty thing, and much more feminine. The cube I saw is very powerful, because the energy could, it has like lots of places the energy could like shoot out of, when it needed to be. And Vesica Pisces, to me, was very agile. It can, it's going one direction, but then it can scoot over to the other circle. And I just saw that as very like working together, but very agile, like where it needed to go. The energy where it needed to go.
Cool, cool. So 3 different experiences though.
Oh yeah.
Wow, cool. Thanks, Millie. Anybody else?
Sure. I agree with the others that each one was a different experience. Some was the circle or sphere had, oh, so much energy, like bubbles, and just enwrapping small and just went up into the air. For me, the cube square imagery was a little harder in that it started out wanting to be cubes, but said, no, 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 go back to the square. And it was like square, like almost like paving a road. And that was smooth, very slow, but smoother. So apparently I'm not quite ready for the cube. And the last one had a similar but different experience than the first, the circles and the sphere, in that because they're linked together, it was easier and more almost like more cooperation, and it was helping each other, and also a bit floaty. It was beautiful, very different and beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very different experience. So 3 different experiences already, right? Beautiful. Anybody else?
I felt with the sphere, like I wanted to embrace it. You know, it just felt like I just wanted to embrace it. When it came to the square, I thought I wasn't going to like the edges. And then I thought it was actually my protection, which I guess in a way, the house is, you know, we live in squares, don't we? We live in them. They protect us. They shelter us. They're amazing for us. We can move around in them. And then the last one I felt was, to me, it was about connection. It's all about connection, linking connection, you know, with others. Like, for instance, if we're in each other's aura, our auras overlap and they connect, and we take in different dynamics and different energies. In fact, you know this, all of us are different with different people, not because we're two-faced, but because the dynamics and the electromagnetics are very different.
Beautiful.
And we're here for connection, aren't we?
Right, right. Beautiful. How about you, Shannon?
Completely different. First one I did a sphere, and it was luminous and white, and it had an aura, and it was rotating, and I just found myself wondering, how does it keep its perfect shape? But it didn't seem solid. The cube, very solid, heavy. It was kind of on a spinning, so that there'd be a corner at the top and the bottom. It was spinning, and it seemed to me it was all about balance. That was a very important aspect of what it was doing. And then the Vesica Pisces, the 2 circles were spinning toward one another at different speeds, and it seemed as though it was like an engine. It was providing energy to something.
Very cool. And I think, Carolyn, you put something in the, let's see. Oh, she took Reiki. She says it reminds her of that. That was good. Yeah. So you can see just that little bit of experience. It was 8 minutes, which is how long we did our meditation. That short experience, you had 3 different symbols and everybody had a different experience because of the energy. That's the key piece. So when you're deciding to explore sacred geometry, you can just remember why you're drawn to one or the other, right? Because it's just like color. It's just like numbers. If you do numerology, you see 444, things like that. People find those patterns significant. This is the same thing, except it's about shape. And what it will do, ultimately, the idea of sacred geometry is it provides balance and harmony. There's a beauty in it because it's repeated throughout nature. It's repeated with Because one of the things that I read a lot, and I just always think, how could that possibly be? We're sacred geometry. And yet, when we look at the shapes of our cells and the shapes of, like the makeup, the molecular structure of our blood, things of that sort, there they are. There's the geometric patterns that they're talking about in sacred geometry. So on some level, that pattern, the more you find it and see it, right, it's going to give you more balance and harmony in your world. So that's you, when you're looking at, oh, I think I'm going to look at a pyramid today. Well, what would be the difference between a pyramid and a sphere? What would be a difference? My first thought's stability, right? This is a really stable foundation. Whereas this is going to give me more movement. So, just looking at not only the symbolism of it and which one am I drawn to, that kind. See, these are made out of other stones. So I have clear ones, clear quartz, but like this is malachite. So malachite again would be associated with the healer stone. And then you would put the stable pyramid on it. So that, or maybe I want more movement today. So this is what I take into my meditation practice for the day. Is that I have a situation and I want to see if I can get some movement and look at all the different aspects of it. So questions, comments, helpful in any way?
Well, I have a question. Do the symbol or do these shapes have kind of a universal meaning?
Well, part of the research on them, one of the books that is Drumbelow Melchizedek. He does, it's the flower of life. I don't know if it's even in print anymore
Oh, okay.
right? So I can also put this in when I send you the document. So what happened to him, he's a mathematician, and he started traveling, and he was in Egypt, he was in Israel, he was in all these different ancient cities, and he kept seeing these particular symbols. And I did a bunch of research for today because I wasn't sure if this answer was how many sacred geometry shapes are there. And I never found one resource that said, oh, there they are. This is but there are many that are similar. So the one, this particular shape shows up a lot. So when you Google sacred geometry symbols, I saw 5, I saw 13, I saw 15, as far as numbers. But like the Vesica Pisces, I'm certain of that one. The pyramid,
Yeah.
I'm certain of that one because the Egyptians they've already taken care of that. They've shown us how it's perfect in the way they did it, the math and everything. The Parthenon is another one. So it's like looking at them and then you get to make a decision about what will influence your experience in this life and give you balance and harmony. So, I think, Gail, your words were really good is, the cube could be very protective because it's representational of a home or shelter and so I was like, oh, I really like that idea. So if you're feeling you need shelter, or maybe someone needs shelter, you might be able to say to them, hey, you know what? You might want to draw a picture of a square, maybe do a meditation and talk to them about the energy of that concept. Because your subconscious is what you're talking to, not your conscious mind, because our conscious mind says we want to understand, right? We want to break it down. We want to make it make sense. We want to organize it. But in our subconscious, it loves this language of symbolism. It loves this language of energy. And you may not know why, but that particular color, that particular shape, that particular number speaks to you. And that's what sacred geometry, where it came from, is it not only spoke to the people that were building these incredible projects, but it also magnified what was going on within the walls of those buildings. So that it's a fascinating concept, but like today, I feel like what I've done is I gave you a teaspoon worth of information, but enough to, you could go, oh, okay, well, let me investigate this one. Or let me look at this one, because there is so much information and a lot of them say the same thing, but not a lot of them explain it as well. So you're looking for the energy of it, right? It sounds like I feel like I'm probably a broken record over the past year. Like, it's the energy, right? And what brings balance and harmony to your life? That's what we're all seeking: peace, joy. And how do you magnify that? So this would, to me, be like the perfect thing. So you could have a shape, you could have a color, you could have the stone that you want, because I love crystals also. You could hold it in your right hand, you could hold it in your left hand. You have choices about how it influences the balance and the harmony within you.
So you can almost put not necessarily your own interpretation, but because like you said, malachite was a healer stone.
Right.
And I guess what I was looking for is the circle means this.
I know.
But I think what you're saying is think about what it means to you, and that's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Like we
And
put
you
our
can
own.
do both.
Yeah.
You can look it up. It's like the circle. I gave that really simple unity and the cyclical nature, right? And of course, it makes perfect sense.
Right.
Oh, of course. Or the classroom example. You walk into a classroom and, people are okay, but when you put a circle out, there's a different energy in the class when there's a circle. So it's looking at it from symbolism, looking at it through form, and looking at it through the energy. Then what you get a chance to do is influence not only your own experience, but being a teacher, you can also invite people to change their experience. They can, bring a sphere and hold it in their hand so that they don't get stuck during class, right? Or you're in your meditation and you're trying to figure something out and you're like moving the energy on a literal sense by holding it in your hand, by using the sacred geometry to influence the energy within you. And that was one of the things that's how I find myself interacting with it, is how does it change my experience in a way that is more powerful for me, making my world, my day, my life better. And that to me is what sacred geometry or color therapy or crystals or any of those things are, is it's another tool to use to have clarity of mind, satisfaction of life, flow. These are all those words we've used over the year. And it just gives you another option. And there is so much information out there in any one of those topics, but in sacred geometry, the same. But the thing that I found the most difficult for myself is finding someone that had something new to say that was this kind of information. How can I make it practical for me to use in my day-to-day world? So any other questions, comments?
Thankful for the conversation.
Oh, good. Yeah. It's always fun. Yeah. So next week is a Magic Monday off for anyone who's celebrating Easter, right? It's Easter Sunday. So we're having a Magic Monday day off. And then I'll see you guys next, for anybody that's signing up, right? For April, it's animal energy sessions. We'll be talking about some things there. So everybody have a great, if you celebrate Easter. If not, enjoy your couple of weeks and I'll see you then. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Cindy.
you.
This is very
Bye.
interesting.
That was
Good.
great. So
Bye-bye.
good.